All right, coming up on this episode of Watch Culture, we're going to be talking about 2010's The Social Network, starring Jesse Eisenberg and directed by David Fincher, and an excellent turn by both of them. Probably one of my favorite David Fincher movies because it's less of a serial crime drama, and Jesse Eisenberg, obviously, it's a little more of a serious role for him. So you're going to want to check this one out. All right, we're back for another episode of Watch Culture, the show where we give you recommendations on movies you should watch. Today, we're talking about The Social Network, a 2010 film and one of my favorite films, as I mentioned, that Jesse Eisenberg has starred in. It also has Andrew Garfield in it as Mark Zuckerberg's friend. Eduardo Saverin. Sorry, I forgot his name for a second. So if that's not clear yet, The Social Network is about Facebook. And while it is not a direct adaptation, as Mark Zuckerberg would tell you, it is a really good movie. It's rated at about 96% critically on Rotten Tomatoes, and 86% for audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that should color your opinion of whether to watch it or not if you haven't, or if you've seen it before. It shouldn't affirm anything, but just something to keep in mind while you're watching the video. So, a supporting cast features Andrew Garfield as Eduardo Saverin, Rooney Mara as Erica Albright, the fake girlfriend, example of a girlfriend for Mark Zuckerberg. Turns out she actually has a Facebook profile from the movie, which is kind of neat. You also have Max Mingala playing as Devya Narendra, and Armie Hammer portrays both of the Winklevoss twins, and Rashida Jones from The Office or Parks and Recreation, depending on what you've seen, portrays the prosecutor who represents Mark Zuckerberg, and her last name is Delphi. I can't remember her first name, but she does an excellent turn as a prosecutor role. So all these people are real people from the history of Facebook, including Sean Parker, who was played by a very thin Justin Timberlake, and Justin Timberlake, in a surprising cameo role, kind of steals a lot of the scenes. So the story takes place over the beginning of Mark Zuckerberg's turn in college, all the way to sort of Facebook hitting 1 million subscribers to the social media network. So the movie is kind of showing the deposition between them, like the legal dispute between each of those groups of people, Saverin versus Zuckerberg, and Zuckerberg versus Winklevoss and Narendra. We see the history of how Facebook is made, and how he kind of loses friendships, and how he kind of betrays people, and how he's kind of a jerk, but at the same time he's also kind of right. He's like kind of one of those characters that you love to hate. I think there's a couple of really neat little factoids in there, like when they hit 1 million views, it actually goes to 1,046,000, which is an allusion to the fact that the movie's runtime is 1:46. Justin Timberlake, like I said, lost a bunch of weight. I think he lost like 15 pounds for his role as Sean Parker, the Napster guy. So what else can I say about this movie? David Fincher forbid any of the actors from meeting their real life counterparts once filming had begun. Also, Jesse Eisenberg, in an interesting turn, actually took up fencing while he was portraying Mark Zuckerberg, because he wanted to see why he loved it so much, and then he found out that a lot of his physical mannerisms kind of came out of that habit of fencing. Another thing that's kind of neat is that Natalie Portman is the university student who is an actor who went to Harvard, and Aaron Sorkin actually had her. He actually had dinner with her and some friends to see what college graduates from Harvard were like and how they talked about their experiences, and kind of hear anecdotal information about Mark Zuckerberg. Again, as I mentioned, Zuckerberg was not really a fan of his portrayal in the film because it didn't really reflect reality, but he did admit that they got his outfits and attire correct. But in the end, he thought it wasn't a bad movie. And I agree that as an adaptation, it's a really good story, even if it isn't 100% factual. It's just a really solid David Fincher film. So that's been my review and recommendation of The Social Network. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say about it. If you liked it, leave a like. If you have any comments, whether positive or negative, about the film, and also just my thoughts on it, please leave them. If you haven't seen the film yet, go watch it. And if you do watch it, come back and tell me what you thought about it. Please hit the share button to share the video with others. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. You'll get all kinds of reviews, board games, movies, albums, as well as creative professional interviews I do, and discussion panels on popular culture and the arts. So this has been Watch Culture. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Fun fact about this movie, I watched it in theaters, and I used to call it Internetland because Jesse Eisenberg had done Adventureland and then Zombieland and then this. So, I mean, it felt like a poetic trilogy for him. It might not be true, but it'll always be Internetland in my heart.